In a previous video, we looked at using the arms and the bows of the arms to create connection and start getting dual opposing forces in the body. This follow-up video is going to be talking a bit about the quads, and the bows of the legs, and to start kind of working on that. One thing that I've seen with lots and lots of people and with my own progress in development is that getting the legs to function the way that the arms do and the lower body to work as well as the upper body is a challenge for most people. We're very upper forward dominant, so chest, arms, head, we're good. Legs, lower body, extremities, not so good. And to have a connected body and to have a coordinated body of dual opposing forces throughout the body, you really need the legs involved. They are the driver of what you should be doing, and everything else serves to help be a conduit for what the legs are capable of doing, whether they're pushing off the ground or pulling internally, whatever. Getting your legs working and working correctly and truly is really, really important. So we're going to look actually at kind of a macroscopic exercise to start learning what turning the quad or opening and closing the quad really feel like. So first of all, let's talk about what the quad is. And if you've heard different definitions, I think it's a bit of an understatement to say that there is a disagreement in most of the martial arts communities as to exactly how to define a lot of these terms. So the way I use the term the quad is basically it is the ball socket of the hip. So the quad is that socket inside the hip. So you have two quads. Sometimes we will, in my group, incorrectly describe the shoulder quads. That's not really correct, but it's a helpful analogy for it. So we're going to talk about the actual true quads in the hips. By definition, closing the quad means rotating in, and opening the quad means rotating out and away. And a lot of times people focus on this area of the leg to feel if they're getting rotation, and I worked on that myself for a long time. I actually find that really challenging because if you look at the musculature around here, it pulls up and down. It does not pull this way. The other thing that I want people to know as before we do the exercise is that bowing of the legs, just like we talked about bowing the arms, bowing of the legs is going to be coordinated with closing the quad. So when I close my quad in general, 90+% of the time, I'm going to be bowing that same leg. So it's going to bow and close. And when I want to unbow or open, I'm going to be opening and unbowing at the same time. So that there are some exceptions, like certain, crossed up stances require you to bow and open. There are definitely exceptions in my experience. For the most part, you want to be closing, bowing, opening, unbowing. And those support the legs differently, and they support it in a really positive way. So let's actually look at a Yanagi Ryu exercise, or at least that's the tradition where it originally came from through my teacher. That we call this box stepping. It's a basic movement exercise, and this is going to help you start feeling what opening and closing the quads and how that coordination with the bows of the legs works symbiotically. So the basic drill is to stand very narrowly, and you're just going to take a short little step forward, trying to not rotate the hips, but trying to turn. So your knees are going to knock together, and I'm going to try to get my forward foot facing 90 degrees as close to possible. From here, I'm now going to let this hip, this quad, unbow and open to bring me around to 90 degrees. So I've unbowed and I've also opened the hips. And I'm just going to walk in a square. And I recommend, we used to do this as warm-ups all the time when I first started with my Aikijujutsu teacher. Do it both directions. You're closing, opening, closing, opening, closing, opening, closing, opening. If you want to start getting your arms involved, just as a way to kind of remind yourself what's happening, I kind of grab like I'm holding sticks or something. Close, open, close and bow, open, unbow, close and bow, open, unbow. Close and bow, open, unbow. And you should just do 90-degree turns. Do that for a couple minutes, and you want to really feel your glute involved in the opening and closing. So when I close, I'm pulling from this knee through the IT band, through the glute, which is releasing, up into Mingmen, the lower back of down. Pulls. And then when I want to unbow, I'm going to unbow and open. The glute pulls and pushes into the back to bring me around. Pulls, pushes. Pull, push. Once you've done that for a few minutes, kind of a comfortable, little bit outside of shoulder width stance, try to get that same motion, bowing close, unbowing open, bowing close. Feel it pull across the hips around the outside as the knees pull forward. The knees don't knock in, they bow forward. That's really important. Bow close, unbow open, bow close, unbow open, bow close, unbow open, bow, and just do that. Both working at the same time. You're not doing counter or anything, just bow close, unbow open, bow close, unbow open. You'll start to feel it kind of ache through here, hopefully. And that's just a really great introduction into using the legs correctly to bow and close or unbow and open the quads. That will come into other exercises. It's critical though for basically any higher level stuff that my group does. It's really, really important to have that down. Once you have that, you can start doing things like micro shikos, where you start to close one quad and then you open instantly to that quad. So you get these little hops where you're basically bouncing off the ground by closing and opening really quickly. And it's a form of the sumo leg lift, but I call it micro shiko. Shiko is the name for the leg lift, where you're just really quickly closing, opening, closing, opening, closing, opening, closing, opening, closing, opening, closing, opening. Those are really great home exercises. You can do those just sitting there. So hopefully that helps. Even if you've done some of this material before, try walking that square. Do a minute going one way and then a minute going the other way, and then go back into it as a specific drill for opening and closing the quad, and see if it changes how you feel your connection getting through. Again, even people I know who've been doing this for a long time struggle to get the legs really, really engaged and correctly moving with the upper body. So give that a shot.